Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I'm your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. How do I do that? I try the wines, I review them, and it's up to you. I review, it's up to you. It's your palate and it's your money. You spend it the way you want to. Hopefully you're figuring out my palate. Got a little present for my son for Christmas. I just wanted to show it off. Thought it was pretty cool. It's a little Jack Daniels 3, the Barrel Select, Single Barrel Select, the Gentleman Jack, and the regular Black Jack. Cool present. I'm going to be in bourbon for a long time. See a little bit of stuff going on back on the door there. That's my wife hanging up the Christmas cards and birthday cards. Her birthday's in December. And so all that stuff is up here. Trees right there, you can't see it. The bar kind of sits, in the back of the house. We never use this door. We always use our entry door in the back of the house. So that's why it's set up the way it is. If you ever wondered, why does he have his bar by the door? It's because we don't use it. Occasionally somebody that doesn't know us shows up there, but that's the way it is. So with New Year's less than a week away, New Year's Eve, I know a lot of you that, I would encourage you to drink champagne at any time. Hold on just 1 second. I forgot to do something. You think I was a rookie at this. I noticed, hey, it's a little dark. Forgot to put my light that I shine on the stage set up. So there you go. Now hopefully it's a little better now. So a lot of you are going to drink bubbles on New Year's Eve. Even if you don't drink them all year, that's the one time you seem obligated to drink either sparkling wine, cava, champagne. Well, cava is sparkling wine, excuse me. Sparkling wine or champagne. Now, like my wife always says, just say champagne, Stan. Everybody, it doesn't matter what you think, but I got myself, just out of habit. I am a wine guy. I say sparkling wine if it's not from Champagne, France. And there's a whole bureau that's set up to protect the Champagne name. And there's a give and take on that one, I guess. Everybody has a different view on it. I've just trained myself to say sparkling wine if it's not from Champagne. And I respect that, because really the sparkling wine out of Champagne is, it's different. Different soils. It's a lot cooler there. The fruit is higher in acid. There's a lot of great things about Champagne that make it makes it better. Now I've had sparkling wine that was very good that wasn't from France or Champagne, France. But overall, I think there's a quality level that you can tell in bottles from Champagne. That being said, I love cava. I love Prosecco. I love sparkling wines, domestic sparkling wines from the United States. I've tasted some fantastic sparkling wine from Lemieux, France. Alsace does some cremants that are amazing. So, there's a lot of good stuff out there that isn't from Champagne. But you are going to be probably popping some bottle. And some of us perhaps like to go a little bit higher. That one bottle that we open, maybe we have several other bottles that we want around if we have a lot of people, but there's that one special bottle we might open. So we're going to try 3. 1 from Washington State and 2 from Champagne. Now this one is Mountain Dome out of Spokane, Washington. And they've been doing bubbles for a long time. In fact, I used to think, I still consider them one of the better producers of bubbles, sparkling wine in the state of Washington, although I think Treveri is giving a lot of stiff competition to them in that avenue. Okay, you guys saw the Jack Daniels box, okay? We're going to leave it here, just because I think it's a really cool present. We'll kind of put the bubbles over there. Okay, but let's look at this one. This rolls in at $18, so it's, fairly good value. $18. It has a really kind of funny label with the gnomes on it. So they've been doing sparkling wine for a long time. I think Treveri does an excellent job. Of course, St. Michel out of Domaine St. Michel has done bubbles for a long time also, and they get a lot of accolades for their sparkling wine. Now this is done method champagne. So they do, what that means is that they disgorge the yeast, they ferment in the bottle, they get the secondary fermentation in the bottle, they disgorge the yeast particles out of the neck, and then they dosage or put a certain amount of sugar and alcohol depending on the sweet or dryness that they want out of the wine. So they do it just like they would do in champagne, so they call that method champagne. On this they just say they ferment it in the bottle, which means the same thing. Now you can tell when a wine has been fermented in the bottle, you usually get marzipan, bread dough, yeasty characteristics on the nose. And this is classic. Even a little bit of nuttiness coming through. I've been a big fan of Mountain Dome for a long time. I had it at I've had it at parties in the Magnum size. Really like it. Let's see how this one is showing. Wow, that baby really foamed up on the mouth. Cool thing about bubbles too, if you if you're not drinking champagne year round, it's low in alcohol. This is 12%. So the thing about that is, if you treat it like a white wine, which it is, it just has a little sparkle on it. You could have it with shellfish. You could have it with a number of different types of foods that you normally would have a crisp white wine with. So you need to think about it that way. And $18 is not going over the top as far as spending money. So the yeast and nuts come through this big time. I get like hazelnut, a little bit of walnut, some almonds. I definitely get that bread dough, marzipan, yeasty thing going on. This is done in the Veuve Clicquot style, you know, the one with the orange, yellowish orange label. Very, very popular champagne, Veuve Clicquot. And it has a huge amount of the nuts and the yeast and the bread dough. I mean, it is like a meal in your glass. And what was I going to say? This reminds me a little bit of that style, although it has a little bit more lemon citrus on the finish than Veuve Clicquot. Veuve Clicquot does not go there. And but it has that same kind of nutty, yeasty bread dough style. So I tell a lot of people that like that style to go to Mountain Dome because of that. And it also is only $18 versus around anywhere between $50 and $70 for Veuve Clicquot, depending on where you buy it. I know Costco sometimes throws it out there for a dirt cheap price, but generally if you walk into a grocery store, it's going to be between 50 and 60 bucks. So, you know, a lot of people don't want to spend that. You go to Mountain Dome, you get that same sort of yeasty characteristics. Good acid. I'm going to go B+ on that. It's a little sweet for me on the mid palate into the finish, but it has a lot of good things. A little bit of that citrus on the finish. It's got those yeasty, bread doughy, sort of nutty thing going on. I'm going to go B+. Let's move on. Now we're going to champagne. I'm going to give that just a little bit of a rinse. And Champagne's a really cool place. They have different areas. They grow Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, and Chardonnay. And they do it in different areas of Champagne. And I'll show you this label. This rolls in at $37. Little fun fact about Champagne, there's a new category that's really growing right now. It's called grower champagne. In other words, the guys that grow the grapes make their own bubbles. It used to be that back in the day, all the big houses bought all the grapes from the growers and made their product. And on the label, in very small letters, you'll see right here, it'll have an NM and then some numbers. That NM means Negociant Merchant, which means that they buy their grapes from farmers. They do not grow their own grapes. Sometimes they're in co-ops and so forth. This is Louis Barthélemy. Did I tell you that? It is Champagne, and it is a Brut, and it is non-vintage. Let's see what we get on the nose. So this is a Negociant house. They get their grapes, they buy them from co-ops, they buy them from different farmers. And this rolls in at $37. So, you know, that's a pretty good value for a champagne. And that's why I picked this one and the other one out. Because, you know, there's a lot of champagne out there that goes well over $60, $70, $80. And, you know, if you want the real deal, if that's what you're in the mood for New Year's or any time for that matter, it's nice to find those, you know, $35 to $45 to $50 champagnes. This is not as easy on the nose by any stretch. I get a little hit of pear and apple, but it's not very super expressive on the nose. A little bit of white flowers coming through. Let's see what we get on the palate. There's a couple of schools in champagne drinkers. They're the ones who like the Veuve Clicquot style with a big yeasty, nutty sort of thing. And then there's this style, much more bracing acidity, much more on the lime, lemon notes coming through, a little bit of tangerine. I'm getting a little bit of that. Just a very little bit of almond skin coming through on this one, but nice citrus, very, very dry on the palate, but great flavors. I mean, those citrus notes just pop. I get that, like I said, lemon, lime, a little bit of grapefruit even, a little bit of the grapefruit skin coming through, and it's just, the finish on this just hangs on with those citrus notes. Tangerine, I'm getting a lot of that out of there. This is a beauty. Yeah, like I said, that almond skin, sort of almonds come through on this. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, this is if you want to spoil yourself a little bit. Maybe there's only a couple of you, or maybe you plan on opening just one bottle for New Year's, and there's a couple of you and you want to have a really nice bottle. This really shows that nice chalkiness, too, that is so true of the terroir of Champagne, that real chalky soil, that limestone flavors coming through. It's really big time. I'm serious when I tell you that I can still taste this baby on my palate. My mouth is watering just from those citrus notes coming through and that bracing acidity. Another little fact about Champagne, you probably already know this, but if it says Blanc de Noir on the label, it's 100% Pinot Noir. If it says Blanc de Blanc, it's 100% Chardonnay. Now if it's a Brut, they can go any direction, but usually it's a combination of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. This, I believe, and Pinot Meunier, but I believe has a lot of Pinot Noir in it. And you might say, well, isn't Pinot Noir a red grape? Yes, it is. But remember, all red grapes, when they're pressed, the juice is clear. The way they get the color is by allowing the juice to sit on the skins. That's what gives it color. So if you have a rosé champagne, they've left the juice on the skins enough to give it a pink hue, and that would be Pinot Noir, because that's where you're going to get that color, is from the Pinot Noir or Pinot Meunier also. But more than likely Pinot Noir. So if you like laser sharp, good citrus notes, beautiful like tangerine, like I said, all that stuff, if that's what you're looking for, Louis Barthélemy is the guy to go to, and it's a great value at $37. I am going to go A- on that. That is a beautiful wine. Let's move on to the next one. Now this is a grower's champagne. In other words, when you look on the little thing on the bottom, it says RM, or Recollant Merchant. So if you're at your wine shop and the guy's going on and on about grower champagne, just have him show you where it says RM. Not that you'd question them, but just make sure they're not pulling your leg. So that's a little fun fact, isn't it? Be able to go in the shop and say, hey, what is it? Is it a grower champagne? This is a grower champagne. So in other words, the guys that produce this, Charton Tallet, Saint Anne, and this is a, I believe it's a Brut. Cool thing about this, I even tell you what's on the back. It says, it says 60% Chardonnay, 40% Pinot Noir. So there you go. Show you the label. Now a lot of guys that are really into bubbles, they love this label. It's a very, very well-known kind of eclectic grower champagne. I sell it at the store. I love this stuff. Let's see what we get on the nose. Yeah, I get a lot of apples and pears. It's funny, this is much more expressive than the Barthélemy. I love the Barthélemy on the palate, but the nose was a little challenged. This has a lot more going on. Definitely some walnuts coming through. And I'm getting a little bit of bread dough component, marzipan coming through on this. Let's see what we get on the palate. Very nutty, yeasty thing going on the palate. The apples come through, cutting acidity. I mean, this thing finishes citrusy. This is a cool wine because you get that kind of bread doughy, kind of yeasty, nutty thing on the mid palate, but then it finishes clean, crisp, citrusy. It's a beauty. Yeah, this is a best of both worlds, really. If you like a little bit of that yeast, but and you like citrus, it kind of brings it all together. It's got a nice flow across the palate, very consistent. Boom, yeast, boom, nuts, boom, citrus. And it too is hanging on my palate. But the interesting thing is it's not all citrus hanging on my palate like the Barthélemy. It's got a little bit of that nuttiness hanging on too. So it's kind of a really kind of cool flavor profile going on with this. And I don't know if I mentioned this. This rolls in at $45, a little bit more money, but for the dough, you get more dough. Does that make sense? For the dough, you get a little bit more dough. Yeah, I get a little amaretto coming through on the mid-palate, which is really, really interesting. This is a very interesting, complex, layered bottle of champagne. Love the Barthélemy, but I gotta go A+ on that one. That is a beauty. That is really, I mean, for under $50 to get that complexity, that interesting characteristics on your bottle of bubbles, it's well worth it. Well, there you go. I hope you had a great Christmas. We had a fun Christmas at our house. We had lots of people here. I cooked a prime rib. It turned out really good. Nice time with family. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to 2015. Really excited about it. I'm really going to focus on my YouTube channel, try and get that, I'm trying to build an intro into it, trying to think about how I'm ending it. It's a work in progress. But I really sincerely, guys, I really appreciate the love you're showing. And for those who have made comments, I really appreciate it. That means a lot to me. So if you can make a comment, if you can subscribe to my channel. Believe it or not, I've got to get 500 subscribers to be able to take that subscribe button and make it link to my subscription to the channel. So please subscribe. If you're watching these, if you're some of my homies that you're in my wine group, just take a minute and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. But thank you for watching. And remember, wine is not a mystery. It's not complicated. It's just grape juice, fermented grape juice. Drink it, enjoy it, experiment with your palate. Don't let anybody tell you what you should or shouldn't like. And if we do that together, both of us, you and I, can take the snob out of wine.